I would like to call the meeting to order. Motion to accept the minutes as mailed. Motion by Tim, second by Jimmy, or James. Any additions or corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Second item is IT. That's two quick things.
Yep, and two, I believe they're quick things. One is a request, and I always get the terminology wrong, but a request for a waiver from the purchasing policy to renew our subscription for Office 365 or Microsoft 365, which is our email. It is the way that they work it, it's not something you can put out to bid. It's not just licenses. It combines a professional service along with it. The total is 143,000 and change. Still working out the final quotes. That should be less than 144 altogether.
Motion. Second by James. All in favor? Carried. Next.
How much is that going up from the last time? Do we want to know?
It does keep going up. I knew there was gonna be a big increase this year. It is less than I budgeted though, so that's a good thing. We did kind of curb the licenses a little.
Less of an increase.
Yeah.
You must be in government.
That's how I shop, you know, I saved you this much money.
I'll take the red notice, thanks.
Next.
The next is, going back in time just a little bit to the Cradle Point routers that were purchased for Board of Elections that we weren't able to return. We have tried a couple of times to auction them off and we're not having any success. We'd like to be able to divide them out and offer them for sale. To a couple other counties have expressed interest for a few. If any towns were interested, they would probably make a reasonable small router for a small office. But to be able to, we have 24 total. And so, and they're good little routers. We just don't have any way to use them within the county, unfortunately. And it was beyond the 30 days when they decided to change course. We were not able to return them.
Anyway, get rid of it.
Yeah, I just wanted to be able to recoup whatever we can from it.
Second.
Question, would each one have its own password?
Well, yeah, so the router itself, the Cradle Point routers are cloud managed. And so if we were to divide one out, like say, for example, the town of Hartford bought one, it would be completely yours. It wouldn't be managed by the county and you would take possession of it, take ownership of it.
But
So-
how would you, but is there, my router, if I have a guest in my house, I have to tell them my password.
Oh.
Get to the router, so how would that work with 24 of these? Did each one have an individual manufactured password and?
Yeah, so
go with
each,
the router when you sell it?
right, so each one is individual, but they're not like home-based routers. They have to be programmed and set up. So yes, they would each have their own unique credentials and passwords and be completely standalone. But they are business class routers, so they would be something you use to put in place behind your internet connection, behind like your modem for Spectrum, to manage security inside your environment. They're also cellular enabled, so they can be used if you don't have Spectrum and you just have like cellular and put a SIM card in it. It's an option too. That's what makes them unique. That's why they were gonna work so well for.
What are you talking about? 25 bucks each? or something?
Yeah, what's the cost?
No, we paid $585 a piece. So, you know, if we could get 350 or 400, I would be happy, honestly, to be able to piece them out. I think that would be reasonable. They came with a 3-year service on them. There is almost just over 2 years left of that service. So it comes with all the service and support and everything right on it, 2 more years.
Any other questions?
What's the difference in security with a commercial router versus just like a router from Spectrum or like?
Right, they're not quite as easy to program.
Okay.
The home-based routers will not have a cellular connection, so you can't put a SIM card or those type of things. That's one of the biggest benefits of them. And then these are cloud managed appliances, which means there's basic security you can do or basic programming on the device itself, but they're actually managed from a cloud, from the cloud network.
That means then there's a cloud-based service, like a monthly?
That's what, yeah, there's a little over 2 years already included still.
Oh.
We bought it with 3.
Wow.
So you already have that, and then it would just be whoever buys them would renew that
Right.
when it expires. They're similar, a different model, but same brand router that we use in patrol cars.
Can we send out a letter to all the towns first before, we go selling to other counties? Can we give preferential to Washington County Townships first if they're interested?
I'm okay with that, maybe.
School, both cities.
Yeah.
Put an end date on it.
I was gonna say,
Right,
put it
right.
expiration.
Why give preference?
There are equipment. It's our services that are already paid for.
But is that your equipment? Should you maximize your sale dollar wise?
We haven't been able to find it so far.
Set a price.
Right, the price, it's not negotiated, but the price is gonna be set.
They've been up for auction, we've got a little interest, so
Yeah, we put them up twice.
this is a way to get rid of them. So if you want to give the towns a couple weeks, that's fine. Good committee.
Short answer is no, it's not illegal. The personal property can be disposed of pursuant to rules established by the board. So,
There's only real property.
right, it has to go to auction. Not non-tax sales.
We have to declare a surplus before we do it?
Well, that's a footnote. There's nothing in the law that says thou shalt declare a surplus. It's just one of those things.
They have to decide by what, January 5th. You have to put an end date, or somebody's gonna read it and go like that's the number. If it has an end date, or not, pick a date.
Even if it was February 1st or something, to be able to give people some time and then,
They can discuss it.
yeah, and if any of the towns have any questions, just call me and I can talk to your IT vendor too to see if it'd be a good fit for your environment.
We're all set? All in favor?
Aye.
Carrie, anything else come before the committee? We're adjourned.
Merry Christmas.
Is that back now? Okay, we'll call government ops to order. First on the agenda is to accept the minutes from November 21st, moved by Dave, seconded by Tim. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Carried. First one up. Come on up, Pat. Have a seat in the hot seat.
First off, we got the Fort Ann DPW barn project update. We have some set dates now. January 4th is gonna go out to public bid. Bids will be received February 29th. There's obviously a bunch of dates in between there for walkthroughs and stuff like that with the contractors. I believe Barb and I worked it out, so don't think we will need any special meetings to accept bids or anything like that. I think he comes in and gives us enough time to vet them all and then do it in finance. And then full board.
Is bid for what?
Project.
Yeah, but isn't there many bids?
There is, all right, so there is five separate bids. There's your general contractor. I have copies of the bill, but it's all Wix Plus, so it's general
Contractor,
contractor,
plumbing, wiring.
plumbing, electric, HVAC, and I think we even broke out civil work, the grading and everything. So there's five separate bids coming in. Per law. pretty much all right put together. You can get copies if you guys wanna read them over. It'll be a job manual that thick, and I think Bob and Sam will both take a look at all the prints and everything, you know. If you wanna look at them, plan on a few hours. Pretty good read. You're into that kind of thing. That's what I got. If you got any questions on that?
Yeah, we'll just wanna make sure that sometime in January, we sit down and, discuss the bonding.
Yep, so actually, it was kind
Okay.
of, but that's fine.
Oh, magnitude of money we're talking about, why would we, I mean, we bring bid approval to committee for much smaller things. Why would we let something so huge just sail right over our heads
So,
as far as accepting bids? Because you just said that there's no reason why we'd have to bring it back to committee.
we would bring it to finance committee and then full board.
Okay,
With the timing would be finance committee and then full board. We wouldn't have to have a special,
I got it.
we wouldn't have to have a special board meeting to accept the bids. Like, I think we've timed it so we have plenty of time to vet it out amongst everybody before we actually have to do it at a full board. Sorry. Any other questions? I mean, there's a lot going on in the background. I mean, I think, the first or second Monday in February, I'll be at the village board meeting in Fort Ann, working on getting the resolutions for the water hookup and the sewer hookup and that sort of stuff. You know, it's nonstop back and forth right now, big projects. It's every day. Where,
Did you have a question, Dan?
okay. I'm gonna move off that if everybody's good.
You, I couldn't tell if you were
Right, you
just
did.
moving around or.
Moving on.
The second is the con application, which is the public health move. With, that was submitted. There's been back and forth, back and forth. We just sent the last round of their question and answers back over. I expect, really expect probably in the next month to get their approval. There's gonna be a project, obviously, after they give us approval, you know, but it is moving forward again. So
You said con certificate of need.
certificate of need.
We already have one.
That's through the, well, they do for this building, but when we're moving, we have to reapply, because you're moving to public health service. And it gets right down into, Tina can tell you better, but whether it's a hospital and patients and services and what you provide is all included in the application. Is there any questions before I move on past that? Okay. In our round of furnaces this fall, there was 3 that were red tagged by our contractor. One was the waste oil furnace in Cambridge, Jackson Barn. The other was a unit that was in Middle Falls, and then the third was one of the units over here at Fort Edward. So just as an update, how I did it is, I know Middle Falls is scheduled to be on, so I don't want to put money into it. What I did was I sized the unit for Middle Falls for Cambridge. So basically we'll put it in temporarily, then move it down there next year. We'll take it out before the demolition of that building, that project. Our guys are doing it in-house. Does help overall cost. They're hanging, they were fuel oil nuts and we're changing them over to propane. Obviously, the first year, the amount of fuel we were using in them will pay for itself by switching to propane. Cost of propane versus fuel is less than half. So. Questions on that before? Yeah,
When you red flag a furnace,
yep,
that, does it mean that you just have to throw it out, it can't be repaired?
yes. Basically, your heat exchanger is cracked. It's an unsafe, you're either carbon monoxide or possible fire hazard. Some of the old school stuff, you would weld them up and they always crack. And in fact, I think the one, waste oil one has been welded multiple times. And I pushed them to get away from the waste oil. Sure, our fuel, the waste oil was free, but I pretty much could have hired a guy to keep it going all year, all the time. My guys spent every day going back and forth trying to keep it going. And the DPW guys, that's the same story in every building that has waste oil. But it's a great idea. You're using up free fuel, but cost of the labor is pretty intensive to keep it going. All right, the chillers that we've talked about, we awarded, they're actually getting done right now. They cut up one of the old ones and had to piece it all out of here. I don't know if you guys were in and out and saw any of that action. That was pretty neat. Seeing as though the building was built around the original chillers, there was no way to take a whole chiller out without taking down the whole outside of the building. The new ones are modular, so they come in 5 sections, which they craned them and everything out, down the stairs and all the way through. But that should be wrapping up in the next month.
And we will sell up the parts of chiller, but anybody gave those?
You have to saw all it out.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, like in pieces and then carts. There is a couple, so we did save, we went back and forth. We had 2, they never run simultaneously. So we did save the important parts off the other one, which should always just be a backup now. It came down, we needed a repair on our second one, pretty sizable, so I weighed back and forth whether we should take the second one right out of there too, second of the old ones, but it would cost more to cut it up and get it out than it would just to repair it and have it sitting there as a backup to the new units. So we ended up leaving the second doing there. Hopefully we never use it for anything. Hopefully it sits there and our new ones work flawlessly for as long as I'm here. And the rooftop units for the law enforcement center, number 5 and 6, they could start happening in the next month. Depends on delivery of the units. They're waiting on the manufacturer still, so to ship them.
Matt, the children on whatever they are on top of the law center,
Yeah,
are they better quality where they'll last longer than,
so
because at the time we thought we were getting good ones
yeah.
and they didn't last.
No, so there was a couple issues. I'm not saying they were of bad quality, the ones originally installed. They were control room. They were not used correctly. When Weber managed the jail and they built it, I'll just give you a quick story. They didn't hook everything up. So there was all these individual heating units all through the jail and everything that were never, the boxes were there, the units were hung, everything was installed, and they never ran the wires to them. So basically they ran those outside units up like they would a residential furnace instead of commercial design, right? And they abused them. That was the cause of their failure. They were never meant to really heat. They moved the air in and out, and then these units do the heating on inside, and they were trying to heat. At the time, they thought, well, there are electric units that are in there. There's no way, we're not hooking up electric units in a million years. Well, it wasn't designed, so basically 10,000, I had the wiring done, maybe the first or second year I was here to get those units running. They had to change the controls, because now they're controlled the way it was originally designed. It was the first time the sheriff had heat in the whole front of the building. But it was too late for the equipment. The equipment was already just beat up. But it was $10,000 worth of wiring. When I started, I mean, how much was that worth when you built the jail? Right? So we saved $5,000 maybe on wiring, and it cost us, I mean, close to $1 million in the long run because we shortcut this thing. So let's try to keep that in mind. For these buildings that sometimes we can jump over, $1 to pick up a penny. Doesn't work. That's the true story of the whole furnace things out there. The roof is actually finished down there. I have had a little bit of issues with the contractor down there and quality of work on the roof, so we did withhold payment for a while. Worked with them to remedy the situations and everything, right down to having the manufacturer of the rubber come back out a second time and do walkthroughs. I wouldn't let them off the roof almost for a whole day, yeah, because we weren't getting anywhere, They tried double teaming us. saying, oh, well, this happened because of you. I'm like, we don't even have guys come up on this report. Oh, you must have spilled something. No, and I had pictures dated of when it was during the installation. So we have, since Remy did that and Greenwood, which is right up the road, has got it right. So I think about them, it should be coming for this month. So that's the update. The job is done.
Appreciate the extra.
Yeah, that was a lot. Then, the only thing I would like to bring just, I think next month, as long as it's good with Al and Melissa, that maybe we could do a capital project update again at the start of the year. Just I'll give you the updates and just run down through them quick. That work for you, Al?
With 3 new supervisors, I would highly recommend it.
Yeah, well, that's what I was thinking. But I want to make sure you have
Yeah, absolutely.
a vision of
Okay.
it. That's it.
Okay.
Run.
Anything else to come before government acts? Laura?
We're working on tax bills. We started with White Hall this year. They are being folded and are folded stuff in the field as we speak, White Hall. So, it's gonna be a little bit of time before your town clerks get called and tax collectors. Our gal being the last one. Anyways, we are working on them and you will be getting them, before the first year. Because the timing scheduling of, the continuation of out collecting and then waiting for the vote. And then the board meeting being, the Friday being early, none went up. First Friday, that's probably the first year. I don't know how, probably 30 years. Yeah, 50 years, I don't know. None went out on Friday. But we will get them as soon as we can get them completed. And I want to thank the Government Ops Committee for all of the, help and guidance they've given me over the years since I was county director, and all of the great supervisors and all the, the chairs of government ops. So, thank you.
Enjoy retirement. Melissa has one.
One quick item, going Board of Elections, the commissioners notified me that the old voting machines, the Dominion machines, were offered to all the school districts. There was not any interest. So they are going to dispose of those machines, meeting the requirements by the state. So just so you're aware, because the committee did approve them to be offered to the schools, but there has not been any interest.
Is there a
Yeah.
disposal fee?
I
That you
don't
have to
know
do?
that part yet.
You have to wipe all the, they're basically cameras inside, right? that
Yeah, all
scan?
of that is going to be, there's requirements that have to be met first. And then disposed of.
Sorry, Dan.
That was my original question I was gonna ask, but I also have a second one, which is nothing to do with the voting machines. If you're done with that, then my question is, at the last government ops meeting, and I approved the minutes here when we started this, there was discussion that it was gonna be forwarded to government ops to discuss the costs and fees associated with the county providing services to sewer district.
We were gonna do that in January.
That's the way it was decided. I wasn't clear on, when that discussion was gonna occur. So,
She's hoping there's new chair coming out, so she doesn't have to handle.
See, Dan, she has me there. Anything else to come before government?
On Dan's point, I also think I made a comment, but that we probably prove that we should have an overview of, like, not just the sewer district, but other things that we do, soil and water. What else would be kind of a quasi outside? Well, the sewer district has rate,
Pretty much
soil and
personnel.
water.
Personnel.
It's
soil and water covers. the whole
Well, I'm talking
county.
about like what Al does for them and what other services the county.
They still cover the whole county, so I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that data, because like even Al was mentioning LEAP covers the whole county. To me, that if you're covering the whole county, it's a fair exchange of costs and fees.
Yeah.
But when you have, well, see, I remember, because in 2000, it was, we tried to divest ourselves of the sewer district because they were a private entity, but they needed, I don't know, we needed to be the umbrella at the county level for them to qualify, I think, for a lot of the grants and loans to get started up. That was state requirements that required the county to be married somewhat with the sewer district. And then I think in 2014, didn't one of the committees, task you, Roger, with looking to what it would take to separate ourselves again? I mean, that I surfaced again in, I think, 2014.
We talked about it briefly, but nobody's interested in doing it.
Right,
And it's
so I
not
mean, there was
private.
discussion.
It's not, no, it's not private. That's clearly the case, but the original sewer district, again, way before my time. Because it crosses the county lines, they took it as across town lines rather, not county. It does actually cross county lines a little bit, more stuff going to Queensbury, but the original setup was because it crossed the two town lines. It was taken as a county authority, for lack of a better term. Kind of like an IDA or something like that, to go in and set it up as a single unified district, which kind of merged what was in Fort Edward, what was in Hudson Falls, and then piped it all down the street to what it is now. So that's how it became us. It could be its own authority if it wanted to be. It would be very complicated to do, and I'm not sure the ratepayers would be too happy about it, but it's doable. But it requires a whole new study, a whole new map plan report. We also talked about giving sewer district 1 to Kingsbury at one point. Now we took over Kingsbury instead. So every step we've taken has been a step away from that.
Oh, I don't disagree with that, but I'm just saying that the mentality, the attitude of the supervisors from at least 2000 was that the sewer district paid their own way. We would help them, but there was a fee if we had to provide county services that affected the taxpayers' rates overall. So I mean, and I just wanted to see where that all stands, because like Dana, I love his statement, and I don't want to rob his thunder when he says somebody flushes a toilet in Fort Edward, Hartford has to help pay for it. You know, I just think we need to look at it.
So
I
it
mean,
sounds
if
like
it's-
that conversation would be part of DPW, and then whatever policy or whatever overshadowing work that the county does to come through government ops. But I think you'll find that there's multiple departments that also are intertwined between the county and other entities. I'm sending DPW the conversation. That's okay.
You said about.
But we said it, but we did say at the November meeting that we were gonna handle this in January, so.
Now, yeah, Ron, but I recall you telling us how what their plan was going forward, there's gonna be millions of dollars of stuff they had to do, and if they were on their own as opposed to being under our umbrella, the financing and the availability of things was gonna be significantly reduced. Is that's something we talked about at one point? They were gonna have a tough time, you know, financing on their own as opposed to financing as being part of us.
Well, if they were to break apart as a sewer commission or whatever, the Christian Bolt iteration was when he was here, that it would be very different. It would definitely operate very different, especially in financing. I'm not well versed in what a sewer commission actually does, so. But my understanding at that time was it would definitely make bonding a little more
A lot
difficult.
more difficult.
They would definitely be paying a higher rate than they're paying through the county's, AA3 ratings.
Okay, something to look forward to in 2024. Now,
So, just to dovetail real quick on Laura's conversation, I will be coming maybe one last time. I'll take a swing at it again. A couple of times I've talked to you about the fact that we do not have to collect schools and villages for those last 2 weeks in November. This was probably the most stressful internal one that I've done in my career because of the board meeting being about as early in the month as it could be. Because by law, I have to take postmarks. So it really gums up things for taxpayers waiting for because some of the taxpayers like to pay their bill in December for tax purposes and stuff. So with a year like this, where I'm collecting through November 30th, I'm still getting 7 days into collection, I'm getting valid postmarks that I have to accept. I can't turn over the re-levies until all those postmarks are done. And then we had a problem with the re-levy report. So every bad thing that could have possibly happened lined up this year. And it affected the bills, it affected Debbie's schedule of taxes, literally internally and externally, because now your town collectors and your town taxpayers are gonna be later than normal in getting their bills. So you will probably hear from me one more time about whether you really want to extend that collection period. It's something we do as a courtesy. It is something that is not required.
We should do that in January, start on
Is the November 30th date solid, or is that something we decided here?
That's again by,
State law
well,
or by us?
yes, because we have to have the re-levies. November 30th is the cutoff so that we can get the re-levies onto the bills. Their collection dates is set by their warrants, so they're gonna collect through October 31st. And that could be the end of the collection. Every taxpayer can know that by October 31st, if you're not paid, it's gonna be re-levied. That, once you get people to know that, they'll act accordingly. A lot of people, if they know that they have to October 31st, will take advantage of October 31st. If they know they have till November 30th, they'll take advantage of November 30th. To complicate things even more, there's one group of school bills in Hudson Falls School District that has a different penalty structure. So that monkeys out the works a little bit too. But you're gonna have to decide as a board, and I promise it will be the last time I ask, but I'm gonna ask again. Because this year was one of the rougher ones that I'm just not sure the benefits there. But if one person got to pay and not have a re-levy, maybe it is worth it. I'm not gonna make that decision, but I'm gonna ask you, the board, to review it and decide whether we should continue. And if we continue, what I need is the understanding from town collectors, taxpayers, and internal department heads that I'll get it done as fast as I can within the law. So either we're not gonna do it, or everybody's gonna understand that it'll be done when it's done. One of those two decisions are gonna be made.
We should do it in January, so we get time to do it. Make a presentation, we'll get it on the schedule.
The villages and schools will know in advance that this is your collection period.
We agree.
Or we're gonna continue what we're doing, and everybody will just have to understand the bills will be done when they're done.
We agree, it's gotta come up in January.
One of those two paths has to happen.
Dana?
Which one is friendlier to the damn taxpayer?
So,
I hate to characterize it, but this is what I'm hearing. You know, some take advantage, blah, blah, blah. They're the taxpayer. They're the ones that feed us. So let's not,
that wasn't my intention.
No.
so which one is more
On the
lenient
other
to them?
side, on the other side of the coin, you have a lot of people that want to pay their taxes before the end of the year, whether they're going south, whether for their finances, whatever. That's a very busy
So I don't
time.
have a way to measure what doesn't happen. So I can measure for you the people that took advantage. I can't measure for you the people that are aggravated by having to wait for the people that took advantage. And I don't say take advantage and as a negative term. I mean, it's something that's offered to them and they take
Well, I
advantage.
know there's people that wait to the very last day,
Right,
but
but I don't mean that
but
as a
you-
condescending
you can't
comment.
curse all the other ones for
Right,
those.
but I don't mean it as a disparaging comment. It's simply, when I say take advantage, I mean, they're utilizing what they're.
So if we were to continue and you do it as best you can, that is more lenient to the taxpayer, gives them, because that's the November 30th date
Right, so,
by postmark.
right, so you could have somebody, you basically extend another 30 days to people who maybe need some more time to get the funds together. That's the reason we do it. And the philosophy,
The upside.
right, the philosophy of the board has to decide if you can help 20 people for the next 30 days, is it worth it? And your answer can be
So
yes.
what's the downside that you won't get it as early as you normally
The
would?
downside
Some guy wants to
is,
pay his tax bill before the end of the year, is coming to quote you today, and you're gonna say, hey,
Yeah.
it won't be until the 30th, you just gotta wait. And he's gonna say, but I wanna pay my taxes now, Dana. You know what, how many people are like that? There's some. So it's taxpayer versus taxpayer. One is financial, the back end is convenience, I think. Really, it's convenient for them to do it ahead of time. But we all get them before the end of the year.
and what you're saving them is the 7% re-levy. That's what it's stating.
Well, that's.
Dan?
Yeah, I'm gonna take the opposite side here because I just asked this morning, Laura, this because my tax collector said she's already received over 10 calls from taxpayers that want to go, either leave to go to Florida and can't because they can't leave until the tax bill comes, because it's not gonna be mailed to Florida. And if they don't have relatives up here, or family that can do
It
it,
can be forwarded.
Well, but then
Don't
you
post that
can,
to forward it.
yeah,
It's
but
not.
you,
A lot of people paying cash.
It's really, I feel that's a real first world problem, is they gotta go to Florida too early. They like, come on.
Yeah, there's no-
That's really inconvenient.
well, I
It
actually.
is.
Tell them they gotta wait and benefit the rest of the taxpayers.
I
in
think I
town.
have the.
I know.
I'm gonna agree with Dan, and that pains me on the way to end 2020.
If we don't miss the point, these taxes were due in January, and now we're
We're talking
driving.
school taxes.
So we're talking school tax.
This is school.
Oh,
Right,
these
but
are
they-
February, oh, these are
September,
September.
October.
taxes.
But
Okay,
there is a huge amount of people that will. come
right, but
and ask.
now,
Now, your people going to Florida, they're not going in September, so they're okay. This is school tax.
right, I'm still with you on this, Dana. I'm just saying that when I asked Laura when I will get my tax bill for the town of Beeson, since they started at the W end of this business, and E, I'm at the other end. She said, things, even if they went well, might not be to the January board meeting.
That's next week.
I mean, so I don't.
She says next week, not January board meeting, she just corrected you.
Well, that's. next
They're
week.
gonna be looking for
January
trade
board
purpose and.
Yeah, second. and then they-
It's only the 19th.
Okay,
You
anything
said,
else?
told me the 27th or 28th, and then you said it might even be as late as,
Might be as-
the January board meeting.
Anything else to come before the government ops committee? Going once, going twice?
Oh, you should have put it on adjournment, we gotta keep it going.
No.
You give somebody stocks.
Yeah, I think I-
Take
your chair with you.
No, there's plenty there.
Somebody down here, you can be the proxy.
He doesn't wanna stay there unless he can vote, so.
He'll go anyways.
Can you vice chair not be a supervisor? No.
You can everywhere else.
Your deputy doesn't have to be on board.
He wants to run.
Well, where anywhere else versus.
All right, let's just go. We continue on the last meeting of the year. I'd like to call the December 19th, 2023 Ag Tourism Planning meeting to order. I don't know the right page. Yeah, I'm not. My first order of business is to accept the minutes from the November 21st. So moved by Jay, second by Dave, all in favor, say aye. Aye, opposed, carries. Soil and water. Hey, there you are.
So, I'm requesting, that the board plan, consider increasing the per diem rate for our board of directors that are appointed, by the board of supervisors. There hasn't been any action on this since, like, 1991. The per diem rate that is earned is $12.50 today. As we are moving forward and have to look at earning state funds and some of the requirements that go with those, they're asking more of our board of directors to do, and I realize that it doesn't affect the supervisors that are appointed to our board. The other folks that we are asking to do this service for our board, people may have to travel and whatnot, so we're asking to increase it to $50 a day. Around the states, we're one of the last districts to actually see an increase. Most of them are between $40 and $75 a day. It does come out of our budget. That's my request. You can consider it, or you can say no, but that action has to come from the board system.
I'll move the
Supervisor.
discussion. Thought I could break that habit before I left. Thought I could, I never did. You don't have to move things for discussion. Just discuss it if they're on the agenda.
On the agenda, go ahead and discuss.
I missed it by that. You already moved it.
It does have to be moved by the board of supervisors as a part of district law. So to try and just
No, you
do
moved
things
it.
correctly, I wanted to present it.
Second by Chad. Discussion.
Why did you second it?
Let's move it along. Anyway.
Brian,
So this would be in next year's budget, which we can't do anything about till next
It's
year.
in the soil and water budget.
So you already have money for it, then you don't need any money for
it's how she's gonna, it's how they're gonna use the money.
You just by board resolution has to set it per the law for soil and
Brian's
water.
question is,
They're
did you
paying-
factor that into your budget when you submitted your budget to Brian to put into our budget?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
it. If you got money, you don't need money, so we're good.
We're not asking for more money.
It's not
from
money,
them.
it's,
It is money. What do you mean it's not money? It is Christmas, but it is money.
You can't say this like offers now.
okay.
It's like one of those deals, there's 5 board members and only 3 get paid.
I know.
Well, you can say it, Chair, we just demonstrated you could. But again,
Go ahead, Dana.
Karina, what is it now, the rate now?
12,
$12.50 per day.
$12.50 per day, there's 365 days in a year.
No, for for attending a board meeting or if they need to go to a training or to a state level meeting or whatever, that's what they get for.
So there's a meeting a month at least.
Yes.
What's 12 times?
$600, times 3 is 1,800.
Yeah.
I mean, even if we hadn't budgeted it, we
That's
spent
true,
for
that's
an
true, Chair.
employee for 3 months this year, so, you know, we have extra. We're okay. I wouldn't ask if I didn't think we could afford
Go ahead,
it.
Dan.
Did I hear you say that supervisors don't get it?
No, because of the fact that you are compensated as your supervisor.
No, I just wanted to make sure I heard that correctly. And how many directors are eligible for this?
3. And I thank you for making the appointment. Commissioners.
Ridiculous.
Go ahead, Rob.
In 1974, I started as game warden. And we had per diem, if we were traveling or something like that, it was $12 a day, just for perspective.
Well,
I don't think
buys
that.
a donut and a coffee and dumps. it.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna get a mile.
What did we get today? That's food.
Roger said you got a board approval for food, so it's not, can't get a hot dog yet by gas for that.
My point was, I don't think that's unreasonable request.
Right. All right, we have a motion on the floor.
I
Any
was
other,
making.
the other motion on the
Yeah,
floor?
okay.
Any other comments? All those favors, signify by saying aye. Opposed? Sorry, Dan. Gary.
Right, for clarity, there is mileage paid for these if the directors submitted to go to these meetings, so we don't need to pay mileage
Oh, okay.
plus the $50, is that correct?
So we can do away with the mileage.
Okay, that's what I want to know. I don't want to have them submitting for mileage.
And
And the $50.
I mean, I don't know, that's your,
Well, the per
They
diem
don't
credit for
submit
meals.
for mileage.
yes, they
And
do. One gentleman submits the mileage.
And the others can, and the others can, and will get compensated if they did.
I'd like to amend. So it's just. Baskets would be in the motion.
Traditionally,
You gotta send the motion.
and per diem is would be for lodging and expenses, meals and those types of things.
Time.
Normally 2 separate.
Soil and water board is required to do other things besides.
So
For
this,
points for the district, so there's travel that's required, I don't think, I mean, we don't put in for
so
mileage.
the language for the district law is The compensation of the members of the governing body of the district for performing services as directors of the district shall be fixed by the county board for each calendar day they are actually engaged in the performance of their duties and mileage in going and returning from places where they are required to go in the performance of their duties, provided funds are made available by the county board for this purpose. The district, those funds come out of the district, what? And I realize we get an
It's very simple then.
account.
Don't provide funds for mileage.
It
Funds
says,
as
and-
provided.
and mileage
But
in the
the very,
district
with the
law.
very end of that paragraph, as provided in the budget.
Why would you not want to provide?
So don't provide it.
Well, so
Why would you
soil and
not?
water can pay the mileage?
If we want.
Instead of us paying the
Well,
mileage.
that's what clarity is.
Ooh, where's it submitted to?
The mileage gets submitted to the district and the per diem gets submitted to.
But
Debbie's going like
But
this.
We
Deb's-
have a member that's submitting mileage to.
Your,
Correct.
One of the members.
They're keeping that.
they're
Yes, now
supposed to
down.
submit it to the house.
The board passed a resolution, I believe, that allowed mileage to be paid to
The other
people
boards.
that volunteered on board.
So there was the wildlife one, right? Once in a while, somebody go into that, just different things, the tobacco thing, we even pay the guy to come in, the ones, the independent members, so there's different things.
Typically, nobody submits.
No, they do.
Right.
So the con-
Yeah,
I thought that you couldn't get mileage in the county, but if they were outside the county.
That's when they do that with Bob Banks. No,
No.
be honest.
The point.
Yeah, well, I don't think the point even did that.
So the question is, who should cover the mileage? Whether it's the county should cover the mileage or the sewer district, or excuse me, sewer district. Dana.
Yeah.
Soil and water.
Soil and water. That's the question mark, right?
That's W.
So you have to set a rate for compensation. Compensation includes performing the duties and or, in my humble opinion, mileage. You set the rate, they pay the bill.
So
So
we
you set
won't,
it at $3,000, Fran might not like that, but, you set the rate, she's got to fund it.
So does that mean all mileage submissions should go to the soil?
Yes.
Yeah.
Instead of Debbie, no more to the county.
yeah, I was not aware that we could.
It doesn't say where the funds are paid. It says provided funds are made available by the county board for this purpose. What she's saying is she's got the funds through whatever revenue sources that she has, including the county appropriation.
All you have to do is approve the rate, everything else is her.
Right, set the rate and let them deal with it. And then every year, remember to come back and set the rate, that's supposed to be done every year. So that should probably be part of the budget process. Just, even if you keep it level, just say, and in my, I'm proposing that the rate be set at whatever.
Yeah, I just want to understand this. You've got 3 directors plus how many supervisors are director? 2? 2, so the total of 5 directors. And are they scattered throughout Washington County? Basically, or are they all near your office or?
They're all southerners.
They're all southern. yeah.
Okay, so now tell me, when do you pay mileage? Is it,
It
now you
generally-
2 are on, right?
It's generally paid at the end of the year.
Right, no, that's not what I mean, so I know you 2 don't get mileage. But if,
Or per diem. You don't get
right, I understand.
but it's not for regular meeting, you're saying, is it for a seminar and something like that, or training?
Is it for a regular meeting? Do they get paid mileage for a regular meeting? That was what, first question.
Do they or
If they
could they?
submit,
Do they? Or could they? Yes, could
if
they?
they
Was it-
submit, we
Yeah,
have
they could.
some that
So they
don't.
could.
We have
And
some-
you said that there was more being required of them. Let's say, and since I'm gonna pick Jay because he can't get it. If he was asked to go look at a project, do you get paid mileage from when he leaves his house to the project? or does he get paid from your office to the project? No, I was wondering how this mileage is determined.
So I
That's
went
all.
to one of the special meetings out in Syracuse with Green last year. I met her in Greenwich at the soil and water facility and rode out with her, so.
In our county vehicle that we pay for.
And I rode with Karina when I went, where'd I go?
Fonda.
Well, I'm just, and then I have no problem with that. I'm just trying to say, how do you make these determinations if we're paying mileage? That's all. How do you determine what is mileage?
She just read the.
Well, no, where is it being paid from? From the office or?
Right.
Daryl?
I know at the federal level, it starts wherever your travel is. If it's from your domicile, then it starts from the domicile, you have the right to claim domicile. If it starts from the place of an office, then that's where it starts.
And I think that's a good approach, but that's federal. All I'm saying, if we're going to agree to pay mileage, you got to determine where you're paying it from. That's all. And I'm not opposed to it. I'm just saying, I think you need more than just say, yep, pay mileage. I think you need to have a better understanding of what you're agreeing to. That's all. Whatever it is.
If you're going to Syracuse for soil and water, shouldn't you take the barge down the canal to get out there if it's appropriate? Not helpful, man.
Right.
What's your point? So what? It's our last meeting. I'd save it a note for you, Dave.
All right, thanks. So we approved, but moving forward, Deb, if you get, you know,
Please forward it to us.
and let them submit it, let soil and water submit it. Okay.
So deciding a rate.
Oh,
Still need to set a rate. You said you agreed to the heating rate. You need to agree to a mileage rate. that
From
she's
when?
gonna pay.
You want it from
What's the
us?
count?
what's the count?
Whatever our rate is.
Yes.
Just tie it to ours, whatever the
Right,
county
whatever
rate
ours
is,
is.
so that when it never has to change.
So that means I amend my motion to include a mileage.
No, this is a new motion.
This is a new motion. Well, we got
New
to
motion
vote
is that-
first.
We haven't voted on that.
Voted on it. It's done. That's why it's a new.
I'll make a motion that the mileage rate be tied to the counties.
Are you amending your?
No, no motion.
It's a new
That
motion.
passed.
Joe Biden.
Well, I do,
started the
yes,
motion.
but are you including identifying the location where it's
names
from?
out.
Dave? Are you identifying the location of where the mileage are?
If he's referring to the counties, you know,
Whatever the county, whatever
so.
the county.
whatever the counties- So if the county's already determined, you know, where, we have a,
Right.
It's like work location or.
right. So if the county already has that determination in there, he's saying match the county, whether it's the rate or their policy.
Rate policy.
Okay. Using their policy, the county policy.
Yeah, yeah, the county's rate and policy in regards to, mileage.
That way everything's consistent.
Right.
I can live with that.
I got a second by Paul, or we already had a second. Yeah. So Paul second. Okay. Paul J. Any further dialogue? All in favor, signify say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Now, with that, what is that, the amendment?
Yeah, I
So
know.
now we gotta vote on.
No, that was another resolution, set the rate.
Yes, Dana was given.
Thank you very much.
Bye, Karina, have a good day.
Very good.
Run, Karina, run, run, run. Be brief, we're brilliant, be gone, right, Daryl?
Brian, you ready? You got a tough crowd here, Brian. They don't want me to leave.
Operative extension, we do not pay our questions per diem or mileage.
Right.
If you recall at the last meeting, we presented Consolidated Ag District 8 plan, which was mainly Salem and Hebron. If we had listened to Debbie at the time, we wouldn't be here again. But at the time, we had an addition of 5 acres. We did not have a removal of 6 acres. That did come in 6 acres from Albert Sheldon, which I think is going to be part of the Hudson Headwaters project in Salem. So it's only a change of 1 acre. So there will still be 37,387 acres in the district. 57.4% of the district will be in agriculture. So we just had to make that change to the plan. So to add the 5 acres and remove the 6 acres.
Motion by Dave, second by Brian and Jay. Any further dialogue? All in favor, so say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, thank you.
So it's like,
Yeah. We also had Ag Farmland Protection Board appointments. Did we get an update on that? Brian? We had some individuals on the Ag Farmland Protection Board that were, their time was coming up. We gonna reach out. Do we know if any of those two individuals specifically?
I have not reached out to that. Who is up there?
All of the members except Meg Sutherland, so Renee, Jay Skelly, Kevin Armitage, Tom Gordon, and Shelley McKernan. They all expired 12/31/23.
I think there was question whether Shelley McKernan or Tom Horton hadn't been able to make meetings, whether they were still interested or not. The possibility is.
And it isn't Renee, her position is because one of the seats are in
That's
AFA
it.
position. Just like whoever gets more of a job.
You need to move today to go to the second, so you have a board in place in January. Is that why there's a schedule here?
I just brought it forward knowing that terms were expiring.
Yeah.
and that They don't have the appointments. I don't know if there's any issue for January.
No, they'll just have to make appointments in January, right?
There's no action to be taken.
Right.
You just
No, but they
simply,
expire, and no action taken,
Well,
they expire.
they more likely would hold over until.
yeah, hold over.
Some pro tem.
But if it's not, even if they expire, until, you don't need a board until it needs to do something, so. You can appoint it and we can.
But can this committee make a motion to hold over their appointment until the next time you meet?
We need to do that.
We do that in my town every year, we hold over
Those,
everybody.
those folks will need to
January
resign
9th.
if they're gonna appoint somebody else though.
well, you didn't kick
So-
the can down the road.
Right, so it creates another, if we hold them over, it creates another, have to resign.
And then you'll have to do another appointment. If
Right.
it's not, if it's the same people, that's great. If it's not, then you'll just have to redo another round of however many appointments. It's no big deal to do that. But, so you can do that, but the problem is if those two folks aren't coming, then you're not gonna take over business.
Right.
Better to do, I mean, do it on the second or do it on the whatever, the regular meeting in January.
Right, so it's a
And,
big- okay.
talk to them in the meantime, if there's no action the board needs to take, which we assume you do, Ryan Moody. Is there anything they need to do between now and the middle of
No.
January? Right, so let's talk to everybody and make sure they're in.
All right, sounds good. So, no action. Look forward to action. All right, moving on to 2023 funding awards. Laura.
Congratulations.
Well, I wasn't expecting such a large crowd, so I did not bring enough copies for everybody, so, we'll have to do some sharing here. Yeah. If you need to make some copies, sorry. See him? Okay, so, as you all know, consolidated funding awards have historically been the once a year, quote, Hunger Games, where everybody submits applications and they do one on the same portal, but it has changed in terms of they've been splitting out programs, even though they go through the same portal. Application due dates vary and award due dates vary. So what you have in front of you is what I know are the announcements to date. There are still some announcements that have not been made. And again, these, in fact, not all of these even go through the CFA portal. But I give you this to give you an idea of what is both going out to our communities and directly to the county. What has been announced so far, and again, this is not every single grant program that's out there, but the typical ones that go through the CFA portal, it basically means that about $9 million worth of funded projects have come into the county. Of these, there are 3 awards that are directly to Washington County. One of them is the housing repair program that was applied for by Pride of Ticonderoga on our behalf to make repairs to low-income and senior households. So there's $500,000 in dedicated funding for Washington County. There is a second agency out there called Restore Saratoga, who has historically been helping Washington County residents, and this is especially critical given the demise of Homefront. Restore is looking at putting out an application. The difference there is they would be the applicant, which means that they have control of the funding. It's whereas the Pride of Taiwan is a dedicated pot of money. But I will say that Restore has already invested a significant amount of their funded programs in Washington County. The other one that is a Washington County allocation is the infrastructure evaluation program. That gave Washington County $180,000, and that will essentially we'll put out an RFP to hire a consultant. That will allow for the evaluation of any kind of infrastructure, which could be roads, bridges, culverts, anything that might be subject to weather-related damage, so that if we have a list of what critical infrastructure repairs are needed, it enables us to go after funding to get those repairs done a little bit faster. That particular grant, it's been announced, but Department of State is a little bit slow sending the actual award letters out. So I'm not going to ask the committee to accept the award, but what I want you to be aware of is we have a $20,000 match that we have to supply as part of that. It was $180,000 in grant and 20 in match. So the original discussion when the committee approved the submission of the application was that it would come out of contingency. That's then up to the committee and up to the budget officers, whether that's still where we want to come from, but I just want you to be aware that there will be a match that has to be put forward. The other one that is directly affects the county is the Lake Champlain Basin Program is going to get brining equipment, which will be shared by Whitehall, Hampton, and the county. I also want to point out that of these applications that are out there, the Regional Planning Board, they've worked diligently on our behalf. And the applications for the Granville Main Street, the 2 comprehensive plans in Argyle and Salem, the Smart Growth Award to Washington County, and the $1 million in wastewater treatment upgrades to the village of Fort Anne were all submitted directly by the Regional Planning Board. So they are working diligently on our. Okay, any questions on that, on general awards?
Go ahead, Dennis.
Can you give a little bit more detail on the smart growth resiliency, because I don't like any of those words. Resiliency is code word for global warming. And what infrastructure are we doing in the county?
So
For global cooling, global warming.
the county will set the terms. We will put out an RFP, but the funding enables you to do, and this was given out at Finance Committee when this was approved, to do research and data gathering, to assess the risk of damage to infrastructure, identification of assets that can be used to mitigate flooding or other kinds of damage, farmland protection measures, and ways to protect vulnerable populations, right? If you want to look at identifying cooling centers during a heat wave or something like that. So again, we will put out an RFP, so we will discuss exactly what we're going to look for, but all of those types of evaluation services are fundable under this.
Go ahead, Dan.
More people in North America die of freezing to death than they do from heat. So you might want to put money towards heating centers, not cooling centers.
We might want to do that. You're absolutely correct.
And
You were still here next year, you put it.
About halfway down, you've got the OCR housing repair. Can you refresh our memory what that is? It's for $500,000 and the project is called Pride of Tide, which I think is Ticonderoga. But does that $500,000 stay in Washington County or
Yes.
does it?
And how many households is it? I know the one that, Restore Saratoga was for up to 25 houses.
I believe it was the same. I believe it, I don't have the application from me. but I
Now,
believe it's-
anybody in Washington County is eligible for
No,
that?
it's low income, so you have to be below a certain threshold.
From a geographic standpoint,
Yeah, geographic.
anybody can apply, but yes, there's certain threshold that you have to meet to be eligible. It's either low income, disabled, senior
Yeah,
citizen.
oh, no, I just didn't know by pride of Thai if it was basically gonna be just the northern part of Washington County or the whole county.
No, a brief history of that is we had Homefront offering repair grants and they had projects distributed throughout the county, but even while Homefront was operating, Pride of Thai was getting applications from the Putnam and Dresden area. And they were, even though Homefront existed, they were still helping people in Washington County. And similarly, Restore Saratoga was getting applications from the southern end. So there is no decree that says those two agencies must work in those areas because they both can accept application from any geographical area, just depending on how much funding they have. It's just historically, because one is closer to the north and one is closer to the south, they've just tended to work that way.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the grants? Dana, I'm just gonna take the other side of it. I mean, if it's not smart growth resiliency, is it dumb, dying, deaf? I don't know.
Well, usually what happens is the opposite of the label that we give it.
That's what I said, dumb, dying, deaf.
Okay, also related to that $500,000 grant to Pride of Thai. So we have received the official award letter from Office of Community Renewal, and it's a CDBG grant. So I would like to request committee approval to accept the grant, sign the related documents, and I am unclear on whether we need a procurement waiver on this. Because this would actually be managed through Pride of Ticonderoga. And there is no county match. It's funds.
No county money.
Are we procuring anything? No.
No.
It's just that we're giving the
We're-
contract to
with
Pride of
Pride.
Thai for them to manage the process.
Have Bob sign it, that way it's his problem.
There you go.
Moved by Dave, second by Paul. Conversation, go ahead, Dan.
Laura, the county holds on to this money, right? And then Pride of Thai.
What happens,
they-
so the money will be, I think we may have to set up a separate CDBG account for this. The money should flow through to us. Should flow through to us and then to Pride of Thai, and then Pride of Ticonderoga. And because this is, so many questions have sort of happened related to how this is gonna work. Melissa and I have discussed the advisability of having both Pride of Ticonderoga and Restore attend a committee meeting, just to explain how the process would work, how they're accepting applications, who's eligible, and how this will work. But essentially, the money comes to the county, and then it gets dispersed out to Pride of Ticonderoga.
What percentage gets dispersed, and is there a handling fee that they have an operating budget? I'm just wondering how much money gets back to them.
So in any CDBG application, there is an allowance for what is called administration and oversight. I believe the current amount is either 10 or 12%. So yes, a portion of this $500,000 will be used to reimburse Pride of Ticonderoga for the fact that they're handling the oversight and administration of both soliciting the applicants, managing the application process, hiring the contractors to do the work, managing the inspection of said work, et cetera. It will all be on Pride of Ticonderoga, and they will get reimbursed through the grant. There is no cost to us.
So are you gonna bring them back to the January meeting and go through that whole procedure with us? Is that what we're?
If you want it to come to planning, it can. I mean, I'm Health and Human Services.
We were thinking Health and Human
seems-
Services, but I don't think we were planning on January. We're thinking after the first of the year, but we may not be ready to get them.
Okay. As long as it's just coming back to the committee, that's all I was. he's got a point. We ought to all know how it works, so we know what people should actually be reaching out and getting the funding.
And then you're aware it's available in your community.
Right.
When we have the contract for the grant contract. You have an award letter, correct?
We have an award letter. CDBG is faster than a lot of them, so I would guess we will get it in January. We don't even have the award letter from the Department of State yet. So,
So no rush to get the budget and finance and stuff yet?
No.
Okay, great.
no, I just wanted to make sure that we had approval to accept it and move forward with signing, because once we sign the contract, then we can't do anything. So we sign the contracts, then we've got seeker to do, believe it or not. And then once they release funds, we can start spending money. It'll take several months, basically, before we actually start spending money.
Usually haven't probably come back, although they explained it pretty
He did.
extensively the last time they were here at the committee meeting. She talked for half an hour. But I think it would be good if we are gonna also talk to the Saratoga group to get the both of them in at the same time. I did write a letter in support of them. Because they have done 15 households and they've got 55 on the list for Washington County.
I believe they requested support letters from the majority of communities in the county.
So I would recommend get the two of them in. We're gonna do it.
Yes.
Haven't talked to, Pride for the second time. She probably just repeat the stuff she said the last time she was here, but sometimes it's hard to remember.
Matt?
It would be for individuals who could show that they're low income, that they would get help on this. It's not by census tracker neighborhoods or that kind of stuff, right?
Individual applications.
Thanks.
Daryl?
Well, I mean, it's important to recognize CBDG and this other one, they're different. How they're, what you qualify for. And how much, but, yeah, Laura, did you get that email? You were on that email trail, right?
From Restore, yeah, it is, what she is applying for is a different set of money. It's all HUD money under different programs.
Right.
So there are slightly different rules, but they're very similar programs.
Yeah, how you qualify, but, yeah, there's a lot of need. We just have to, there are organizations that are willing to administer to it. You gotta remember, part of the administration fee, if somebody comes down from Tycon Road to inspect a building in Cambridge, that's mileage. So it
Oh, yeah.
digs into the cost of things, so not that everybody wants to divide up the county, I think there's more need in what we will possibly get out of these programs. My recommendation is that we consider supporting, like we did with Pride Tycon Road, and allow them to administer, because it really doesn't impact us budget wise. We just give them the authority to operate, and that helps our constituents out there. Because anytime we can keep somebody in their home, that's a win for us. So we talked about that before.
What's it?
I guess my question to the committee was, is this something you'd like to come back to ag planning, or would you like it to go to health and human services in the future?
Once you get the
Now, Laura, how would you characterize CBDG?
Well, it's you say it really fast, 5 times CDBG. It typically, CDBG will allow for community projects, for housing projects, or infrastructure projects. So depending on what the project is, it could fall under a different community.
Yeah.
Or committee, but I would say housing. Market rate workforce housing is an economic development topic, so. It could reasonably fall here, but low income housing assistance is probably a little more health and human services. So it doesn't matter. It's up to you.
That's it.
I think having it through Health and Human Services allows for like, Jeremy Dual, it's hitting people that are actually working with people.
Right.
So they can get the message out. I think it's important for the message to get out when there's money available, so that, different organizations can actually deliver
Just say it's important enough to both of them, might be good for a joint HHS site planning meeting.
All right, we have a motion on the floor, right?
Aye.
Yeah, what was the motion?
Forgive me, we were.
Take a look at Grant.
Oh,
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
yes, yes, we accept the grant for the bond.
Motion on the floor, accept the grant, yeah.
Aye.
Yeah. All in favor, say by saying aye. Aye, opposed?
Dana said I had to vote no the last thing here. The last chance to vote no. And
Oh, man.
he needed to make his
Yeah.
vote.
You voted against the grant?
You voted
No,
against.
no, I wanted to go to ag planning. That's my vote against. I don't think it should go to ag.
You voted. Matt, we weren't done yet.
Oh!
This may be a duplicate, but this basically says, this is the septic grant, PWL ID, PWL name, as we're talking about next.
Okay, I'll keep that up. Another grant level there anyway.
There's still one right there. I'm pretty sure.
Okay, the next one that I want to talk about is a septic grant. It is not actually on that list of awards, but to refresh your memory, New York DEC a few years ago put out round one of the septic grants, and what that does is they're measuring the quality of water bodies. The key word there is water bodies and the effect on them. They made, based on PWL on this list stands for Priority Water Body ID. So basically, water bodies that are failing those nutrients and quality tests became eligible for parcel owners within 250 feet of that water body to get a grant to replace their septic systems of up to $20,000. There were no water bodies in round one in Washington County. In round two, Lake George and Cosayuna were the only two eligible water bodies in the county. So we actually, and so basically it started in round two, and then they just added a little bit more money for the same areas in round three. There were approximately 1,200 eligible parcels based on that 250-foot distance from those two water bodies. We identified and sent out letters to all of the eligible participants. And after sort of quite a bit of reach out back and forth, we ultimately had, out of those 1,200, approximately 100 who reached out to us and asked for more information. And some of those were simply not eligible, or they didn't like the requirement that you had to have your septic system inspected as part of this. Out of those 100 inquiries, we actually got 67 applications, and out of those applications, we have so far funded 19, and there are 17 that are pending that should close out shortly. So that funnel says 1,200 were eligible, and so far out of this program in the last 2 years, we've funded maybe 40 new septic systems. The list that you have in front of you is related to the fact that DEC has expanded the list of eligible water bodies. So what you will see on here, for example, the top one is Halfway Creek and lower part of the river and tributaries. So these are very specific locations along a water body. The request from DEC to us right now is they have given us a list of what they want to make eligible, and they're asking us to verify the actual number of parcels within that 250 feet buffer of the eligible water body. So I'm not sure that we have to go through a lot of identifying. The only ones that because they're probably reasonably close. The only ones that I'm concerned about are the ones that are zero.
Yeah.
Because if we if we agree that there's zero, they're going to take that water body off the list. So I've asked Heather to double check that and make sure if we have any eligible parcels. The second thing that I want to mention is that you will notice that Posayuna is no longer on this list. So this is DEC, so it's complicated. What they have done is you will see Lake George remains on the list. Posayuna is not eligible for round 4, but we still have approximately $400,000 left from rounds 2 and 3.
Take care of most of it.
So and we will be getting more money from round 4. So if in 2024, we got an application from Posayuna, even though they're not on the new list, we could still fund it with the old money. We don't even want to get into the weeds on that. I'm just saying that even though they've taken it off of the list, we could still fund a project there. So what I'm asking the committee for is permission to move forward, work with DEC, identifying eligible water bodies. We will not know the new amount of money that we're getting until the early part of the year, because there are now 19 counties eligible for this funding that we're not eligible for. So it depends on how many counties accept, and based on that, we'll know how much more money we're getting. But again, we still have $400,000 in unspent money.
I had a question in regards to rounds 1, 2, 3. Was there an expiration on when the funds needed to be?
They roll over.
Sam, go ahead.
Yeah, do we know what DEC used for their estimated septic submission?
Real property tax data. So there's a field on and Laura could better answer this, there's a field on the statewide real property tax data that basically says, is the parcel vacant, does it have septic, or does it have sewer? So it is exactly based on that field, so it's probably fairly accurate. You know, what it's probably not gonna catch is new buildings, but I'm not worried about new buildings because they're probably gonna get permitted with a septic system. Like I said, my only concern is I want to make sure that the ones that are 0 really are 0.
Okay.
On just a point of clarification, when it says Van Kill lower and minor trips, is that lower when it crosses the Vermont border on one end, or is it lower starting in Greenwich going down to the Hudson?
I thought.
So there is actually an ArcGIS layer. We are trying to find out if we can get it from DEC, and I've already talked to Heather about this. When you go to DEC's map and you just zoom in on the river, when you click it, it will highlight every tributary that's eligible on that PWL ID. So I can tell you to the foot on any water body where it is. It's mapped.
What about?
So I'm presuming you're wanting us to maybe take this back to the towns or something and talk about the zeros. For example, Mud Lake, I know 2 houses on the shore, Mud Lake, so there's 2 there and then 0. But the one I thought I knew every water body in Washington County. And I've never heard of Minor Lakes. Is that an adjective? Minor Lakes under Bishop Brook? And that's Bishop Brook's a pretty obsolete name. The way down says Minor Lake. I've never heard of a minor lake.
I'll give you the link to the DEC map and again, you know, we can look at it. I don't know.
It's plural. It's plural. Not minor lakes.
Yeah.
So it's not one lake. So it's all the lakes, all the small ones.
What's the difference between a lake and a pond, Bob?
Well, a big difference on the topo map is the why Lapland and Millman on the pond, not lake. Topo map. But that, I don't care, this is Sam serious. Exactly.
Laura, a few questions. 250 feet, they're talking about the parcel, not the leach field, because you could have a leach
Septic
field that's.
system. Septic system is
Septic
supposed to
system
be
is
within 250 feet.
Are these grants income based?
No. Basically, it is a payment of, or an eligibility of up to 50% of the actual cost at a maximum of $20,000. So if you're putting in a $20,000 sewer system, you can get 10,000 in eligible expenses, but there is the septic system must be failing. You can't just say, oh, I think it's gonna fail, and it's not a new build.
How, Lake Champlain is not listed, Hudson River is not listed, the tributaries of Lake Champlain are
Correct.
Hudson River.
I don't get to make those choices. It's whatever parameters DEC uses to evaluate water quality and whatever nutrients they think are damaging or pollutants.
Alright, so it must be Lake Champlain and Hudson River aren't, well, Hudson River is not polluted because.
Are they part of 1, 2, and 3?
No.
They were not.
No, it was only Lake George and Hasayuna were the only two water bodies.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I thought I was in heaven.
Okay, go ahead.
Along with Dana's question, like, none of my 3 lakes are in down there. It's just because this is only like a Champlain water basin grant for DEC and you don't have Hedges or Dead Pond or Lauderdale or
It's
any
Dead
of
Lake.
Dead Lake, not fun.
It's no
You know,
bond, because it
I
doesn't.
may stop and spray paint that correctly. And all my life. Now all of a sudden there's one that says Dead Lake there.
So I have found when looking at that DEC map, that again, when you look up the priority water body ID, it's not just one, it's not like, it's not one portion of a river, it's a river and tributaries that feed into it, which might also mean the river or a tributary drains into a pond. So it's possible that there's a pond there that's eligible as part of that. This is simply what they call it. I'd have to look and tell you.
Yeah, I don't think any of them do.
Go ahead, Sue.
Is Little White Creek and White Creek the same, and just a difference in like 153 and down in Sound and us out of Sound?
So, no, they're not. And the funny, I mean, some of them are in the same watersheds, even though they're different water bodies.
That'd be a tributary to the bank. Now, whether it's low enough down the lower bank, kill the tributaries and do it, but.
That's true, that's very true, Jay, but in the meantime, they still got these identified here, and I wonder where those houses are.
Again, I can show you on the map, because it is very clear. I mean, when you pull up the ID, it will highlight every little bit of water that is associated with that ID.
Might be hit me up.
Thank you.
That's lower. Otherwise it wouldn't been
Is it
in.
possible that we could get, we probably can't get emailed that map, so we should.
I can give you a link to the
Yeah,
map,
it
certainly.
would be good to get it all, so you just look and get an idea.
Right,
Know what we're
that's
talking
what I
about.
was did a link.
So what I need from the committee at this point is, you know, that we are interested in participation. We don't accept the grant yet because we don't know how much it's going to be. But we need to get back to them to say we agree or disagree with this list. So the first thing is to make sure that the zeros are accurate or not. And then my preference would be that we come up with at least one parcel along every water body, because then the water body is eligible, even if we missed one and somebody else applies, it has remained on the list and it's eligible.
How long?
Yeah, what you.
We have until January 26th to get back to them. That's why we're doing that now.
Alright, so we don't need to take any action right now, except for the ones that have zeros within your townships, you know. See,
Correct. I mean, I can come back at a meeting in January and tell you what we have found. I just want to make sure at this point that we are generally interested in pursuing this.
I think we're.
Do you need a motion to show the interest?
Yeah.
Consensus.
I think consensus is fine. At some point, we're gonna have to accept, and that will need a motion.
Yeah, the zeros are the biggest concern.
Wait, once the zeros are replaced with what you actually know, then you can, you know, make a determination.
And again, I've asked Heather to start looking at that, but it would be good to get feedback.
So I was aware of this, Laura brought this to our attention, I think last week, right? About the additional funding and the additional round. I do think if it comes back in January, we really do need to discuss the administration Yes. I'm all for it. I really think, you know, there's money out there. We can help people in Washington County. We should. My secretary is currently the one that's really doing a lot
During this.
of this, and it's really become, you know, a lot more than I think we signed up for, so we may have to discuss that a little bit too.
There is no eligibility in this funding to pay ourselves or hire somebody else to do the administration. When we first accepted, it was being handled by Soil and Water, but Soil and Water didn't have the resources or ability to get things done in a timely manner, so it was moved up to the administrator's office. But effectively, what we're doing is we're almost doubling the number of eligible parcels.
Yeah.
However, you know, we've worked very hard to reach out to those that were eligible the first time, and if we haven't heard from them by now,
They're off the radar.
Right.
Yeah, but they're still coming in, and right now we have, what Laura mentioned, 17 pending. They're just waiting for the weather to change in the spring, and you don't know at that point how many other people are gonna have failed systems. So it's possible that we'll still be busy with those first 3 rounds. And then of course now starting the next round.
At the beginning of last year, at the beginning of this year, we didn't really have any applicants.
We
right?
didn't.
Right,
No, so it's good,
Right.
word's getting out there.
and I get, as does the administrator's office, a number, basically anybody who lives in the county that's heard that somebody else got a septic system wants to know how they get one. So we have to field those inquiries away. We don't have a choice over eligibility. This is dictated by DEC, but we have to field those calls.
Right, Dan.
Just a quick question, can this map be printed off by Heather and be made available for the supervisors to look at?
I think what they kind of agree here, Laura's gonna send around the links that we.
Well, I know that, I mean, but if she can make a big one. It'd be huge, right? And it would,
So she has to be able to get the layers to do that. We think she can. We've initiated an inquiry. If she can get the layers from DEC, then yes, she could produce a map of each and every one of these.
so she's gonna try to.
She's gonna try to.
Good.
That's it.
All right, any other business that come before the, go ahead, Mr. Hanky.
I just got a blasting email here that says Shelley McKernan is definitely not interested in being.
We have one seat to fill, okay?
Tore my ears
All right. Any other business come before this committee meeting? All right, since this is my last committee meeting, that's what took probably the longest in the last 2 years. Thank you guys
Come
all
on, I
very
can
much.
do better. I can do a lot.
We didn't get into cellular or broadband, so, okay.
Airbnb.
Yes. have fun with that.
Airbnb, right?
Short-term rentals? No. All right, with that being said, we adjourn. Thank you.